Welcome to Creative Bites, your go-to podcast for an inspiring mix of creativity, entrepreneurship, communications, and much more. I'm your host, Ivona Fruda, and in each episode, we will bring you compelling stories from the movers and shakers across various industries. We will discover how ideas evolve, how communication shapes our world, and how the entrepreneurial spirit drives progress. Whether you are looking for inspiration, innovation, or just a good story, you will find it here. So, tune in, join the conversation, and explore the many facets of creativity with us. And I'm very happy that we can chat today. I was really hooked by all of your ideas and your life mission and everything that you are doing for the humanity. And I would be curious to learn absolutely everything about this. But my most important question to you today is, what do you feel is your life purpose?
Hey, Ivona, great to be here, and great question to start this off with. Um, yeah, I feel each one of us has a purpose, and each one of us are here in the universe for a reason, and it is it it is quite a journey of our lives, is discovering what our purpose is and who we are and how we fit into the story of humanity and the story of the universe, and like this tapestry that's weaving us together. And um, what's come through for me as my purpose is to uh, to preserve Earth, to preserve all the species of Earth forever, and to spread life in the universe, and to do this all in a way that unites and inspires and does good for humanity today. And so the mission that I'm doing is it's called LifeShip. And what we're doing, we're starting with seed banks on the moon, and we'll send them to Mars and across the solar system that have a backup of Earth's biodiversity and humanity. So we have the DNA of all different species from Earth and the DNA from humans in this. And then there's also a cultural data archive that's stored in billion-year technology. So all this is stored in billion-year technology. And then we save cultural records and stories, and people's stories of their lives, story of humanity, history of humanity, art, music, all different cultural records from humanity and Earth, so that there is the forever story of humanity. And if you're going to save something for the long term, then you want to save copies somewhere else. And so that's why we're saving copies on the moon, on Mars, and across space. And really, with the big vision towards, in this grand story of the universe and humanity's role in the universe, I believe, and what's come to me is that humanity has a role beyond Earth. Like, part of our story extends out into the galaxy and beyond, and that the story of humanity is a story of a species gaining consciousness, going through a wild story on Earth, but then coming into harmony with life on Earth, and uniting around a big picture of humanity going to leave a legacy beyond. And so I feel humanity's big purpose in the long run is to not just be on this rock for a billion years or however long we end up being here, and then disappearing without a trace when the sun gets too hot. Like, I believe that humanity's grand story is to ripple life across the galaxy, and that the story of humanity will be told for billions of years to come, and it'll be essentially eternalized, and we will be the species, or one of the species, that goes on to succeeding in a way. And by succeeding, I mean, like, in life, like the purpose of life generally is to reproduce and to continue. And I see the earth as an organism, and humanity is one piece of this organism. And so life and nature and the earth wants to reproduce and wants to ripple life across the galaxy. And so I feel that humanity's greatest purpose in this is to be stewards of life and to be in harmony with life and to serve this role as part of earth and nature. And yeah, and my purpose in this is to play a role in that whole thing, play a role in continuing life here as well as continuing life out there, and doing it in a way that inspires and unites.
Which is absolutely fascinating. And I would love to know, how did you even come up with this particular idea?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of stuff in space. I haven't personally been to space, but my DNA has been on a lot of stuff that's gone to space. And so I worked on telescopes to find new planets. I worked on instruments to go to Mars to look for amino acids in the soil of Mars, which would be a sign of whether there was ever life on Mars, which it looks likely there was life on Mars at one point. And then I was part of a company, Planet Labs, that built over 300 small satellites to image the whole world every day. And I designed the whole camera system on that. And so I had worked on hundreds of satellites that went to space on over 30 different rocket launches. And I had done a lot in space. And then I gave myself some spaciousness, and after working at a tech company for 5 years, like building these satellites, and gave myself several months off, and to kind of do an extended vision quest and explore what is my purpose here and what am I meant to do next. And I was in the rainforest in Central America, and I worked with shamans and plant medicines. And in one of these ceremonies, I went for a long walk in the forest, and I meditated under this giant grandmother tree in the forest. And I had this like deep embodied vision of the earth as an organism, and as the earth like bursting with its seams with life, and of the earth like ready to reproduce. And then it became clear that the earth grew humans with a purpose, and that we have a purpose to spread life in the universe, and to, you know, both care for Earth today, but to help the earth reproduce and help the earth bloom and spread its seeds outward. And yeah, and in this meditation, like, I opened my eyes and I was like, oh, I'm supposed to create the seeds of earth and send the seeds of earth to the stars and ripple life across the galaxy. That's my role in this whole story. And that's a cool role. And ever since then, I've been, you know, that was 5 years ago, and I've been like, oh, this is my purpose. And I really felt like the rainforest gave me my purpose, and feel I haven't questioned it since. It's just been like, this is what I'm doing.
You said that it's a very cool story, which is indeed a very cool story. I can also imagine that there are many challenges related to that story. What type of challenges have you been facing since you went to the rainforest and discovered your purpose?
Yeah, so it quickly became that the initial business model would be create a community-powered mission, and people can add their DNA as part of this. And so and that is our first product with LifeShip, is people join the community, join the mission, and your DNA gets preserved as part of the population of humanity to go to the moon and go outwards. And they're definitely, in the first year of doing this, I went through a lot of waves or up and downs where I was steadfast in my confidence on the thing, but I definitely would get like shaken a bit of like, okay, can I make this profitable? Are enough people going to do this? Like, do people just think it's a scam? And I'm just like charging to yeah, there's times where my vision would be expansive and I would feel like aligned totally to, oh, this is meant to happen and this is happening through me and the universe is guiding it. And then there's times of either doubt or challenge of, okay, is how much, yeah, how many people are going to do this, or how am I going to make this work? And parts of that are, along with my journey and my personal growth journey and awakening journey. Like there's definitely people I learned in my life that were voices of doubt, and that added to that triggered me in ways and got me spinning off in a somewhat doubtful direction, and then noticing those patterns and noticing the kind of people and the kind of whether it's news or things I read or the kind of things that inspire me and get me moving forward on in a full direction versus the kind of people's experiences or information that isn't feeding the right direction. And so yeah, being an entrepreneur and following a crazy vision and trusting in it that's real work. That's challenging. That's an honorable mission, is like taking a crazy idea and be like, I trust that I'm supposed to be doing this, and I trust that something meaningful can come out of this, and trust that I'm the one to do it. And yeah, so definitely the first bits definitely had much more of a roller coaster ride of a journey, and then I think that also just hardened my commitment to it and my resolve, and now I feel much more unshakable in it. And even though I never was at the point of I got to give up, there definitely was a more okay, yeah, questions of how to make it into a viable business.
And when you experience, for example, you mentioned the doubtful voices from people, how did you deal with that on the spot? I can imagine it's very challenging.
Yeah, I think a big part is gaining the awareness, because those doubtful voices, they might not, it's not always obvious, the things that trigger us or the stories that eat away at us, and the seeds of doubt that get planted in us. And but over time, as with all sorts of stories we have internally, or ways we're perceiving the world and ways that our psychology is being triggered, the more that we can name those and recognize those and start to see patterns, the more that when those happen, we have a framework and a name and a a way that our psychology can just be like, this doesn't need to trigger me, and I know this pattern. And so the more that we can become aware and name and realize the kind of things that trigger certain things, the more or trigger reactions from us, and the more that we can recover from those quickly, or that they don't even bother us anymore. Now sometimes when I realize them, they just make me laugh. Okay, you think that about me, but okay, that doesn't matter to me. Yeah.
That's fascinating. That's also exciting for you that you can just pass on all these doubtful thoughts and continue focusing on your mission, which is wonderful life mission. And for now, for the next tangible steps, what would you like to achieve this year when you think about your company and also your personal goals?
Yeah. So we've already launched 3 times to space. We've launched 3 of our Earth archives to space. One made it the distance of the moon, so we've sent one as far as the moon. We haven't landed on the moon yet. We do have a mission later this year to land on the moon. So I'd really like to get to the moon, get something. I've sent a lot of stuff to space, but none of the stuff I've built or sent has landed on the moon surface yet, and that's exciting. And then another one will go into deep space and eventually leave the solar system. And so excited to get that out there as well. And because on that, we've etched the human genome into billion-year technology. And so to like essentially eternalize the blueprint of humanity and send humanity to the stars, like that's a cool thing. And so excited to get those missions out. We have a few thousand people that are part of the community and have added their DNA, and really excited to grow this as a community mission. Like right now, when we have rocket launches, the community comes together and watches the rocket launches. We do an email newsletter, but I really want to like create it into a engaged community where the community has more ways to participate and more ways to have a say in the mission. And it feels like, for the people in our community and the people that are that choose to be part of this, it really feels like, oh, I'm part of something. I'm part of something cool. And so really turn it into an engaged community and like more of a community experience that people will stay with and be with us for this longer journey, and not just come in one time and be like, oh, my DNA made it to the moon and that's cool, but like actually get people to feel like I'm part of a mission to back up life and to go populate new worlds someday, and that and that we're making steps along the way, and that it's exciting and fun, and and that we make space accessible to everyone. And so the community is a big goal, and then also we engage partners and businesses by being a forever data archive or sending content to the moon, sending content to space. And so really build out that ecosystem of organizations that we're partnered with that are sending something interesting on this as well. And that we're able to help them engage their communities in space missions. And turn it into a exciting, engaging experience and organization and mission and purpose that all different people and organizations can plug into and be excited about.
How can we help you?
We're a small team, and we have people that are contributing in different ways, and we're working on how do we grow it as a community and grow it as as a fun community, that there's different ways to contribute. And so I feel, if there's people that resonate with the mission, then I'm Ben at LifeShip.com, and would love to see if there's ways to work together on it. And and then particularly you, Ilona, like I'm excited about just bringing creativity and imagination and storytelling, and really, I feel there's like a next level of how we display this vision and how we tell the story of the vision, and whether that's through like the visuals or the content or videos or website or like social media, or like how we tell it in a brochure or whatever. Like there's another level of making this come alive, because there are deep emotional parts of this story, and it really is like, it is a beautiful science mission, it is a beautiful spiritual mission about Earth and life and purpose and who we are and who each one of us is as part of the story of humanity, and and our connection to the cosmos. And so there's deep science, there's deep spiritual, there's it's like a beautiful story to tell for a person. It's about like they're you're like your eternal self in a way. It's about what lasts beyond you. It's about everything from like could you live again and be born again to like where do you come from and your ancestors and the story of your genetic line and whether that ends with you or whether it carries on here on earth or whether it carries on and you're part of the branch of life that goes out and populates new worlds um, and yeah, so there's a lot of cool stories to tell in it that are both yeah from the side of like earth and grounded and ancestors and where we come from to like big vision space and futuristic and um, uh, it goes as far out as you want to go in both those directions.
Beautiful. You mentioned like a very important word to me. You mentioned stories. What is
Mhm.
your favorite story that you would like to share with us today about your life, your mission, maybe your past, the stories, maybe the untold untold stories.
Yeah, one that comes to mind was just last weekend actually. I live in San Diego. I live in a community on beautiful land. And there's another community nearby that uh, I heard, oh, people, I had been there once before and I heard, oh, people are hanging out and doing something tonight. And so a friend invited me. And so I went over at like 5 o'clock and it turned out to be a work party rather than like like just hang out and play music party. And there was the person that is selling the land. The community has lived on the land for 13 years and has had all sorts of incredible events and music things and dance things and ceremonies and very magical land. And on top of this one hill, which has an expansive view and like 270 degrees across, it's out on this like peninsula on a ridge, and then it just beautiful, beautiful views. They had two giant domes, and metal domes that have poles, and then the poles come together at joints, and then there's panels on the side of the domes, and we started taking these down. We worked at it for a few hours, and some of the bolts are rusted, and you really have to like work at them. And anyway, I worked with three other people, and we just had a beautiful connection working on this. Um, and these domes felt like almost like the temples on top of this like gorgeous land. And so much has happened there, so much transformation and growth and beautiful events. And anyway, we got the domes down after a few hours. It was probably like 9:30, 10 o'clock. And I definitely hadn't come over expecting to just like work on taking down domes for hours. And there was some food and there was a moment where I very easily could have been like, okay, let's uh, great doing this. I'm taking off for the night. But then and we had the domes down, but these poles were all like stuck together and stuck to the hubs that the poles intersect, and it still needed several hours of work. And I like looked at the poles. I was like, I don't really want to take all those poles apart, and I'm kind of ready to go. Um, but then for whatever reason, I decided, okay, I'm going to stick with this, and like we really wanted to get all of it broken down and load into the truck to take it away. And they were moving and sold the property. And so I just decided, okay, I'm going to go. I'll take the lead on taking these poles apart. And there's hundreds of poles that were like all into these joints. And yeah, it was going to be a several hour job. Um, and like when I first went to it, like I was like, okay, this is going to require like ratcheting these apart and throwing those poles in that pile, putting the hubs in this pile. There's all different length poles. I'll make a couple of piles. And then as I started working, I was like, how can I touch each one of these poles with love and with like and what started to come through me was like, what if every one of these poles was a like a crystal wind chime, and like they were part of a temple, and I'm up here on this temple space, and like I'm you know, how would I touch each one? I would never like grab one and let it clank against another. I wouldn't throw it in a pile. I would like lay it down orderly. When I have to use a hammer to tap it apart, I would like pick up the hammer as if it was like the hammer for a sacred gong, and it was like, and I would only tap it as hard as I would need to, like, um, and when I walk with each of them, I wouldn't just like swing them around. Like I would do it with just like bring attention to like every motion I did. And if I was surrounded by 100 of these like crystal wind chimes, and that was, and I was honoring them. And when I saw like a hammer laying on the ground or a tool or like something that eventually would need to be picked up and moved, I would like put it in its orderly place first, so I didn't risk tripping over it. Or and this like pile of poles and and like it's just all um I focused on like bringing order to it and bringing love to it, and like doing that first rather than uh how fast I could break them apart. And you know, I feel like the way I worked was just like it just ended up being so smooth and so efficient, and like the people around me just, you know, I never said, "Oh, I'm trying to do this quietly," like, but they could tell like that, like we just all started to flow in this like beautiful harmony, and it just was like it felt sacred the way we were working on it. It felt like we were part of like a sacred event of like taking down these domes that had been there for 12 years and had held so many ceremonies. And then we came together, the four of us, and like held a little ceremony honoring the land and honoring all the transformation that had been there. And you know, and this woman who has owned the land for 12 years and been a steward of this place, like I could tell it was like a very, very powerful experience for her. And I felt like I had only been there, that was only my second time, but I came in at like one of the powerful moments of this whole land was like honoring all that's happened there, and really, and this, you know, some of that might have happened anyway, but just like definitely like touching everything with love and touching everything with intention and turning it into like a meditation and a prayer, um, made this whole, it made this like process of tearing down this like 100 poles that were all stuck together, and like from like a task to like an act of love and an act of service, an act of reverence. And yeah, ever since this last week, I've I've been looking more of how does like everything we do in life become more of that? How can I bring more of my heart into it, and more of my love into it, and more of my intention, and see that every moment of my life is part of this like gorgeous, precious life, and this purpose I get to live on, and this yeah, this role I'm chosen for in the universe, and that every moment is serving as part of that, and it all like comes together and makes sense and is teaching me a beautiful lesson. And even if it's hard lessons, it's like it's all there to to teach me and grow me and show me the next step. And my life wouldn't make sense without every moment of it. Um and yeah, I've just in the last week, I feel like I've brought this new level of heart and love and intention into my life. And it's just about honoring what you're doing in the moment.
Basically, living in the present moment with love.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
that's a wonderful intention for not just for us individually, but also for the whole humanity. Let's imagine how differently the world would look like if everyone would go to the world with the intention of love and gratitude and service.
Completely. It's, you know, we're all here as part of it. We're all here for a reason, we're all part of this grand story and adventure that we're on together.
Would you say that all of the journeys that you went through, all of the different processes, healing processes, transformations, were some of your greatest life successes so far? Or what would be your greatest life success?
I have a 9-year-old daughter, and she is absolutely beautiful and wonderful, and my my best friend and best adventure buddy, and is so curious and open and wonderful. And um, yeah, so I feel there's been some big success there in this beautiful 9-year-old Luna. Um, and then yeah, successes like I actually just took her to a museum yesterday, to the Air and Space Museum here in San Diego, and we're walking around, and I saw the satellite that I built that we put over 300 of them in space was on display there, and it was totally unexpected. I didn't know it was there, but it's cool to walk into like an Air and Space Museum and like see, and it's like talking about the disruptive new like way space is done, and it's like all sorts of like old space stuff, and then like, oh, this is the new way space is done, and feel like I have had an impact on the whole space industry in the way that humanity does space. And I can walk into a museum and see something that I built, and yeah, and the feeling that that's just getting started. There's more stuff I'm doing in space that is exciting, and so I do feel like I have. Um, I have been part of stuff that has had an impact on humanity and Earth. And these satellites that I built, they record the whole Earth every day, and they've made the whole Earth transparent in a way that it was not before. And if you can't see something, you can't measure it, and you can't quantify it, and you can't fix it in certain ways. But if you can see every tree on the planet every single day, then you can protect trees in a new way, and you can think much bigger about how to solve problems. And if you can see every ship in the ocean, you can predict which ones are doing illegal fishing or other nefarious things. And so like when you have a big picture on something, then you can solve big world problems. And I was fortunate to design and build the whole camera system used on these, and so I feel like yeah, there's definitely technological stuff that I feel impacts all of humanity and our Earth. There's like personal journeys, and in my own, I'm I my own personal growth and that journey has brought a lot of beautiful humans and community and people and experiences and into my life. And I feel like that whole uh, who I am and where I'm going and what I am as part of all of this is that I'm I'm excited about the life and the person I get to be and am right now.
Beautiful. Let's imagine the universe gives you one wish granted today. What would it be?
One wish from the universe.
But just for today, I'm sure tomorrow there are going to be more wishes granted for you.
Just for today. Um, I, I'll just say that like I'm ready for my mission to take off to the next level, and um, yeah, and so it's just like whatever. And I guess my wish is because I know it's already there and I know it's happening and there's already I'm in the middle of it. But like my wish is to help me see any things in myself that are holding me back from birthing this next phase of my mission, so that it impacts more humans and inspires and unites and helps people reach for the stars and live their fullest dreams, and so that anything that is in my way of being and in my that is holding me back, so that I can serve greatest in this mission and help the most people. Is I'd like to see that, and then be able to heal that, and
So be it. I wish you that from the bottom of my heart, and of course, for any other of your wishes to come true soon. Thank you so much, Ben, for your time today. It's such a great privilege to get to know you better today, and I'm sure everyone listening would be just amazed by your life mission, but also by your personality and what you have to offer to the world in general. So thank you so much for your time, and I look very much forward to learning more from you in the future.
Yeah, thank you, Ilona. This is wonderful and beautiful, and thank you for creating this space and this, bringing this through.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Creative Bites. It's been a pleasure sharing these stories and insights with you. Remember, creativity is all around us, ready to be discovered, nurtured, and celebrated. I'm Ivona, and until next time, keep creating, keep exploring, and keep inspiring. Thanks for listening, and goodbye for now.